This is a it's a bee feeding station for water, because there's marbles in there. The little bees can get at the water without drowning. And we need to support our bees, that's for sure. Now I'm going to pour the rest of this water onto this plant I just planted the other day. It makes these beautiful red blooms, and it can get real big and bushy, and I want it to grow. So there goes the water into that. And now, this is my experiment of the day. I saw this really beautiful shine on this, and I thought, I'm going to focus my camera up real close on that shine. Let's see what it looks like. Wind is blowing. It's an orb. If there was more shadow, you would see more color. But what the light does, sometimes it's so intense that it takes a little darkening of the light for you to get to see the colors. And that's kind of like it is with people. Let me go back out. All those marbles have orbs on them too, where the sun hits them. If I were inside taking this picture where I can control the lighting, all of these little orb shiny spots on the marbles would also be very colorful. And looking through my viewer now, I really can't see it clearly. I may be getting a little color with them. But the sun is shining so much on my viewer that all I see is my face, my eyes looking into it. But this is what I wanted to say that I started to say. It takes the dark to bring out what is in the light. And what is in the light is very colorful. And the dark is very necessary. The dark is part of the light. It is a light. It's a lesser light, but it has its purposes. And we should never condemn everything because it's dark. When you think about it, the way films used to be was that you took a picture and you went into a dark room to develop the negative. Develop the negative in a dark room. What does that say if you think about that symbolically? We're in the dark a lot because we don't always know what anything is for, or how it's going to serve us, or what purpose it has. And the dark has a purpose, because where it is dark, the negative can be developed, and a beautiful picture will emerge. When you take it out of the dark room and look at it, you'll see, oh yeah, I like this picture. So, the darkness is necessary because it is the shadow that defines the light. So often in my pictures that I take, I have to take it into my Picasso developing part of the computer and lessen the light and increase the darkness. And then the colors just pop out. Too much light is not necessary. You need a little darkness. Otherwise, you can't tell the contrast. You would never know. And we need the contrast because this is a world of duality. Over here is my VE tent, but it looks like it's a big plant because the plant is growing all over it. I'm so happy that it grew this year like this. This is my passion flower plant. It made babies this year, and some of the babies got scattered. Their seed got scattered so that, look, I'll take you around to the front, so that another part of it started growing on this side of my VE tent. I call it my VE tent because it is the vector equilibrium that Buckminster Fuller made so popular. He called it place that is like a God spot. If I had the vectors in the middle, you would see that 12 vectors come together. 12 around the one spot in the middle. And the one spot in the middle represents an invisible spot where God is. And the vector equilibrium, let me tell you something about that. I make a lot. Here's a good example. I make a lot of the vector equilibrium. It is found inside of the octahedron. The octahedron is found inside of the tetrahedron. So the big expanse of this is the tetrahedron. But inside, if you take each side of the tetrahedron and divide it with 3 lines, then what you create on the inside of the tetrahedron is the octahedron. Now, if you take the octahedron and divide it with 3 lines on each side of it, then what you make is the vector equilibrium. And what it is about the vector equilibrium is that it centers every possible place within this tetrahedron. Because you see, in this big tetrahedron, there's 4 corners. You can see them. I hope I'm filming it right because the sun is shining into my viewer. You see the 4 corners. This one at the top, I went ahead and wove into it how that inside of the tetrahedron more vector equilibriums are made right in the center, and then each of those have a vector equilibrium created because there is a tetrahedron in there with 4 corners. And then in those 4 corners you go tinier and tinier, and you keep on making more of the tetrahedron, the octahedron, and inside of it the vector equilibrium, which centers 12 vectors coming together over and over, tinier and tinier, smaller and smaller, until you get to the place where it's infinity. Because tiny things go so tiny that it is as large goes large. But with God, that something that's tiny is just as big as something that looks to us physically very big. Because the tiniest thing has the whole within it, because it is centered with the God spot inside that vector equilibrium. And so that is why I like my VE tent, because it's my God spot to go sit down inside of. Let me take you a little bit inside here. I have inside here a chair I sit in, and let me sit in it. You see, I can sit here and look out through the leaves on the top of this, which is a design I created called the Dove Matrix. There's a big story behind the Dove Matrix. But I don't see the sun shining real bright on any spot. Usually I do if the sun is shining in the right way, and I will hold a glass candlestick up and focus in on a shiny spot. But if I do it now, you're not going to see an orb most likely, because, well, yeah, you do. You see them. There they are. The shine of anything will show orb activity. It's not so much that the orb is anything but a looking glass to see what is in empty space. And to tell you the truth, we are surrounded by colors and light dimensions, many of them, uncountable numbers of them. I see them with the naked eye, and my camera sometimes can get them as well. Now I'm going to focus back normal and let you see what it's like when I'm in my VE tent. I'm hoping that straw that was placed there, not by me, was placed there maybe by a bird. I would love to see a bird, especially if it were a dove, make a nest on top of this. Anyway, this is my quiet place, if you can call it quiet, because there's always trains and airplanes and traffic on the highway that you hear out here, but at least it's out of the vicinity of electrical appliances like are always running in my room. Electricity everywhere can kind of sometimes be a problem, and sometimes it's good just to get away from it. Here's my little Buddha. Am I getting him? Yeah, there he is. He's partly in the shade. And I have him here, and in front of him I put a lot of little pretty things. My Vector Equilibrium tent is like a sacred, holy space for me to come into and just sit down and be alone and contemplate and take pictures of orbs and just decorate it any way I want. I go to the craft store a lot. I have spent untold money buying all kinds of stuff to make all kinds of things to furnish my little birdhouse, you might call it. There's one of them I made. It's the tetrahedron with all that work inside, showing the octahedron and then also the vector equilibrium inside of it. And I think it is a symbol of how God is everywhere, because that vector equilibrium can be made by the vectors that all come together and share their vectorness with another one right beside it to make another vector equilibrium. It's just space well used and shared so that all equally have a chance to share. There's a man called Dan Winter that says that the vector equilibrium is the closest packing of spears. And he has a long explanation about what that means. It means all equally share the light. And we live in a world that there's some people, there's no equality for them because they're too poor or too disliked because they're different. And we cannot have that. We have to make this a world where everybody's differences aren't despised, but they're honored. Oh, here comes a dog. Here comes little Bebe. You want to come here, Bebe? I'm just about to end this video. And this is a little one-eyed dog. She lost one of her eyes, but she's as frisky and as agile and happy. She gets around good with just one eye. Maybe people need to look with just one eye sometimes so they can have a singleness of thought. So this is the Dove Lady, and I've shared with you a little bit today of my world, and I thank you for listening. This is the Dove Lady, over and out for now.